Live from SummerStage in Central Park, you're listening to WNYC. I'm Sean Carlson. This is the WNYC and Friends Centennial Celebration. That's right, it has been 100 years, give or take just a few weeks, since WNYC first began its mission to bring our listeners critical news and thoughtful conversations. To celebrate, we wanted to throw this little shindig here. First things first, though, let's bring out our host for the evening. And our host every weekday from 10 a.m. to noon. You know him, WNYC's Mr. Brian Lehrer.
Hello, Central Park. And thank you. Welcome everyone to WNYC's 100th birthday celebration. Hello, first of all, to our Central Park SummerStage audience. Give yourselves a round of applause. You could be watching opening night of the New York Jets, but you chose us. And are you thinking what I'm thinking? Wow, this is what you look like? And you know, people, that's how you dress to be at somebody's party? Really? How did your parents raise you? Now, we don't have cake for everyone, sorry, but we will have WNYC t-shirts, this t-shirt, which you can get for a donation over there, or we will be giving some away along with WNYC, other WNYC swag. We'll explain how when we get to those parts of the show. And hello to all the people in the radio audience. You talk more quietly to the people in the radio audience because they listen one at a time in your bathrooms and your kitchens and your cars. You know that, right? So those of you in the radio audience who are very confused right now because you're used to hearing All Things Considered at this time every weekday. So some of you are thinking, what the heck is this silliness? Well, if you're that much of a news junkie, you can go to CNN for the next 2 hours. That's up to you. But if you hang around to party with us, you will be hearing some friends and special guests. And for you in the Central Park SummerStage audience, let the radio listeners know what you think. We will have Ira Glass, host and creator of This American Life. Brooke, Gladstone, and Micah, Loewinger, the co-host of On the Media, will be here. And wait till you see the performance art piece they have cooked up On the Media like you've never heard it before. Our new Sounds and Soundcheck music host, John Schaefer, will be here. The host of all of it, weekdays from noon to 2, my remarkable midday colleague, Alison Stewart. Storyteller, Gabrielle, Shea from the Moth. And we have some special musical guests, mxmtoon, Nada Surf, Laurie Anderson, and Sexmob. And joining me now on stage, and I am so starstruck I don't know if I can get through this, please welcome members of the cast of the Broadway smash hit Freestyle Love Supreme.
Now this is microphone one. Come on, this is microphone one. 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 Yo, we about to show a little love to WNYC. It's 100 years old, man, that's older than me. Check out the SummerStage, it's a dope scene. And check out my team, Freestyle Love Supreme. What is up, SummerStage? Oh my God, look at all the sexy nerds out tonight. Yes, I love it. Thank you, Brian. As Brian said, we are Freestyle Love Supreme. We are the Broadway freestyle improv hip-hop group started by Lin-Manuel Miranda, Anthony Veneziale, Tommy Kail, over 20 years ago. We're old too. WNYC, we're so excited to be here. We're gonna make up a little music for you. Brian, you wanna help us out with that?
Well, I know your art, your act is interactive.
Yeah.
So explain to everybody in the Central Park audience and the listening audience how this works.
Okay, well, anytime we do a show, whether it's on Broadway or here at SummerStage, we are going to take suggestions from you in just a moment, and maybe you, Brian, and just make this up off the top of our heads. This is New York. Y'all know how freestyle works. Come on. Woo. But before we even get into the freestyle thing, every time we do this, it has to start with the foundation, and that is the beats. Give it up for one of our founding members, Shockwave, Mr. Chris Sullivan. Now, Brian, once we have that amazing beat, then we need words, and I'm gonna put somebody on the hot seat.
Who?
She is representing Bronx, the birthplace of hip-hop.
Bronx, baby!
Please put some hands together, make a little bit of noise for one of the dopest rhymers I've ever had the privilege of rhyming with. It is the 2023 World Freestyle Champion, Dizzy Sense. Give it up for Dizzy Sense. Now, because this is freestyle, Brian, we need some words, and I've heard that you have some words for Dizzy that we have no idea what they are. Now, we're gonna put you on the spot to feed those words to Dizzy, who will instantaneously incorporate them over the beat provided by Shockwave. Dizzy, are you ready?
No.
Brian, are you ready?
Definitely not.
Perfect, that's improvisation.
What about them, Jelly? Are they ready?
Oh, yeah. Hey, what's up, SummerStage? You ready?
Yeah! That's what I thought.
ready.
All right.
Well, as long as y'all are ready. Hey, Brian, whenever you're ready, you can drop that first word.
All right. First word, radio.
Okay. The first word he gave me, I played with, yo. It's what you're listening to right now, the radio. And if you don't know, that would be me. You're hearing these rhymes on WNYC.
Second word, birthday.
Okay. I remember back in the first grade, July 1st, that was my birthday. So if I have to rhyme this in a stanza, my birthday is July 1st, and I'm a Cancer.
Third word, jazz.
Okay. Give me a word that got some pizzazz, or maybe it's a swing time, a little bit of jazz. Feeling right now like I'm about to get swifty. No, I feel dizzy like epilepsy.
Fourth word, jersey.
Okay, this next word, I am not worthy. I am from the Bronx, not Jersey. Either way, I still the American dream. You get my name and number like a jersey on a team. Hey.
And the fifth word is apple.
This next word, give me a little bit of a grapple. I like the kiwi, strawberry, snapple. I know you thought that's where the word was gonna have to go, but we're in the Big Apple.
Sixth and last word, nada. Nada.
Nada. This is Central Park, not a plaza. The devil wears Prada, but they also wear nada. Wow. Over here, this my medulla oblongata. When I'm getting these words and spitting it like lava. Yeah. All of the time they see me on stage, it raps out my mental and not off the page. They say, man, this the world champion. Well, it's Freestyle Love Supreme coming for the win. Yo! Make some noise for Dizzy Sense!
Make some noise for Brian Lehrer!
Brian!
Thank you, Brian. Appreciate you are now a member of
Incredible.
Supreme. And Dizzy does all this with looking so good. I'm sorry, everyone listening at home, you cannot see her.
Yeah.
Hey, let's do one more thing, and then we need the audience for this one. There's a song that we've done on Broadway a number of times called True, where we're going to share true stories about our own lives, but I want to base it on a word that comes from you. And because we're here to celebrate the incredible WNYC that means so many things to so many people, want you to think of a word that represents something you love about WNYC. Whatever creative word comes to mind, there's no wrong answers, but you will have to shout them at me. Raise your hand maybe if you've got one. Yeah, right here. Erudition? Beautiful.
Wonderful
I knew we were going to get something special from the NPR crowd. Yeah, back there, nice and loud. Community, in front of community? Voices, lovely. Yeah, right here. Truth. Okay, yeah, we could use some of that in the world today. You're just taking your jacket off. That's not a hand, right? Yeah, oh, right there. Radio, beautiful. How about over here? Yeah. Informative. Yeah, I love it. Back there. Brian Lehrer. I love it. Yes, right here. Important. Yeah, and one more back there. Peace. Oh, these are all incredible.
Those are great words.
I love all of them. Honestly, the first one that really struck me in the center of my heart was the word voices. The word is voices. Oh, everything you're about to hear is true.
When I first learned words, I used to do rap, but I also did spoken word. I had to go together, put it all in a slam and show the world that I really could give a ham, cheese, and salad on top of my sandwich. This is PG, so I really have to manage. Not saying whatever I could say, but that would be heard. As soon as I would put my pen and pad together, these words would dance on the page, underline my voice. I knew that I would have every type of choice that I would want without getting very super political. I turned those rhymes and made them all lyricals, and then those lyricals had turned all into miracles and changed my life and brought me to the pinnacle. See, even since I was younger, I had choices. But now I'm on stage sharing to y'all our voices, these voices.
Voices, voices. We make our choices when we use our voices. Voices.
Okay, It's young niece. I was a little girl from Queens. Growing up out there, didn't have that self-esteem. Going to school every day, the games I play, and I got a little quiet, didn't have much to say, but sitting in the car, things would get crazy, yo. You know my parents, they would turn on that radio, and what I hear, everything went down. The sound of gospel, blues, and rock, a little Motown. And then I got inspired, then I started to feel the fire. I went to church, the soprano singing higher. And what can I do? Something that came over me. And then I felt moved to start doing the voice. And then I started low, and then I let my voice so high. And then I would let it touch the tips of the sky. I said, do, re, mi, fa, sol, la, ti, do. I like to express, and even so, that little girl got louder, and she got prouder, and she started to make some noise.
voices, voices, oh.
Okay, hold up. I'ma go and get a slice of pizza, cause this is a stupid idea to ever go after Anissa. First time caller, but long time listener. Moved to NYC, Lady Liberty, I be kissing her because, oh my goodness, people calling in, and yes, this is melting pot. This is just the center of that whole dang spot. Honestly, have you ever seen a white boy from Maine with a rapper from Queens, and in between also Bronx and whatever you want, and hanging out at Broadway, it's our favorite haunt, but I gotta look past that, think of my Puerto Rican wife and us listening together to this American life, because people are out there from every different background and in between, and I can't believe the things that I have heard and seen. WNYC giving voices to the voiceless, honestly giving choices to the choiceless, and we need to hear from every voice, not just a couple people and some propaganda. I don't need to preach, I just want to understand you and hear your voices coming straight through radio waves. This is beautiful, and occasionally it pays with my voices.
With your voices,
Come on.
with your voices, 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 giving choices to the voiceless voices.
Thank you, WNYC. We are Freestyle Love Supreme. I think it's time for a little bit of WNYC trivia.
Yeah.
One more time, we're bringing Brian Lehrer up.
Brian!
Thank you. This was microphone one. Come on in. Was microphone. This was microphone one. Yeah, this was microphone
Freestyle Love Supreme. You know, I can almost identify with what they did just now. You know, there's a lot of improv when you're making live radio every day, but I get to use notes, and no one expects me to rhyme when I'm covering the presidential race, right? So, one more time for the talents, the amazing talents of Freestyle Love Supreme. All right. At the Brian Lehrer Show, we love playing trivia with listeners as part of what we do on the air from time to time. And so as part of this birthday party, we're going to do 3 short trivia games, 100-year history games of sorts, and with some WNYC birthday party swag to give away here at SummerStage. Listeners on the radio, you can follow along and see how many you get right. We'll have one contestant from the audience up here on stage with me for each round. They will play on behalf of the whole live audience here at Central Park tonight. So person, whoever you are, we're about to meet, no pressure. And when they get the answer right, my esteemed colleagues, Jennifer, Simon, and Ricardo, will use their slingshot, yes, they have a slingshot, to send some WNYC souvenirs into the crowd. Is this the new Centennial t-shirt with the 1937 Greenpoint transmitter? That shirt that I'm wearing? Your overalls are so cool, by the way. But if that sounds good, and yes, if you don't get it from the slingshot, you can visit my colleagues Liz and Dan at the WNYC membership table. They'll be happy to receive your donation. I had to say that to WNYC to help keep public radio going as an alternative to corporate media for another 100 years. And they have these t-shirts and other merch to thank you with. All right, now for the trivia. The topic for our first trivia game tonight is New York City Critters. Sean, do we have a contestant?
Sure do, Brian. Everybody give it up for Jeff H. Jeff H. is from Nolita/Bowery. He's been a WNYC listener for 10 years. His favorite program is On the Media. Fun fact, Jeff H. can do a cartwheel? I don't know if you want to see that.
All right, you ready?
I'm ready.
Question 1.
I'm ready.
Some of them eat pizza. Some are inflated at strike sites. They have their own czar in city government, and there are some 3 million of them in New York City, and maybe some crawling around in our audience tonight, though I hope not. I'm talking about...
rats, but like the famous pizza rat. Yes. Rats.
Rats is right. One t-shirt slung into the audience. Question 2. When we see this creature on the sidewalk, we stomp on it and kill it per the government's instructions.
It's an invasive species of the bug. I don't know the name. Invasive species. The invasive species bug. I don't know.
Can we do that?
They would light up and...
Oh, sorry, Jeff H. Donwill says no.
The light up bug.
Oh, well.
Invasive species bug.
The answer, spotted lanternfly.
Spotted lantern.
All right.
Invasive.
Question 4. A beloved red, or whatever I'm up to. Question something. A beloved, I lost track already. It's only 20 minutes into the show. A beloved red-tailed hawk lived right here in and around Central Park from the 1990s until his death in 2023. His name was A, Bambi, B, Rudy Giuliani, or C, Pale Male.
C. Yellow male. C? Yep.
That was a wild guess. Slingshot. Whoa, you have
Powerful
good range,
slingshot.
Simon. Very good. All right, here's question 3, which I skipped before. This creature has a holiday, and we like to think it predicts the weather. Obviously, it's the groundhog. That's not the answer to the question. Do you know the name of the famous groundhog from Staten Island? Was it Punxsutawney Phil, Rudy Giuliani, or Staten Island Chuck?
I'm gonna go with C, Chuck. C for Chuck.
He's...
No, A. No.
What are you doing, guys?
Jeez, Louis, I don't...
Is your guess A, Punxsutawney Phil?
C, final answer. C for Chuck.
Okay, we're going to let you switch
C for
to
Chuck.
C because we have a lot of t-shirts in our slingshots.
Yay!
And last one, the rock dove. The rock dove is a common New York City animal with a population around 1 million. They are not indigenous and were probably brought here by European settlers in the 1600s. They are famous for being messengers, particularly during World War I. And Jerry Seinfeld once said, "We have a deal with these creatures. They get out of the way of our cars. We look the other way on the statue defecations." The common name for the rock dove is?
They don't just like text message? Pigeon.
Pigeons is correct. Congratulations, you did great. You're going to get some WNYC swag as a thank you.
Jeff will now
Let's have a
cartwheel off
round
the
of
stage.
applause. All right, that was cool. And we have 2 rounds of trivia. A big reason why we're here tonight is to present and preserve the station's history, as you know. And the history of WNYC is not without drama, so we asked some friends to boil down WNYC's century of survival. And so with a bit of imagination and poetic license, shall we say, please welcome the co-host of On the Media, Brooke Gladstone and Micah Loewinger.
Radio began its life at sea. In the early 1900s, ships on the ocean were still isolated in a world newly connected by telegraph and telephone cables. With wireless technology, finally those lonely ships could send and receive Morse code. Radio evolved to carry the sounds of music and human voices, and now people on land were desperate for radio. In 1923, the country had just been through a world war and the Spanish flu. Prohibition was law, and racial violence and xenophobia plagued the land. Here in New York, it had been only 25 years since Staten Island, Manhattan, Queens, the Bronx, and, reluctantly, Brooklyn were united into one big city. A silver jubilee was held to mark the occasion, with one part of the exhibition devoted to the brand new technology of radio, inviting New Yorkers to imagine a station created just for them.
All of this was due to a dapper fellow named Grover Whalen, New York City's Commissioner of Public Works, sometimes called the father of WNYC. Hey, Dad. Whalen was a man who was used to getting his way, but when it came to building New York its own radio station, he was frustrated. He had the money, but he couldn't build the transmitter because there was no one to do it. Radio already had tech overlords by then, like General Electric, AT&T, and Westinghouse, and they were giving him the runaround. Whalen called them the Radio Trust, and he intended to bust them right after this demo broadcast at the Silver Jubilee. Now, unfortunately, there's no recording of Whalen's speech here, but we at On the Media did a little reenactment of this scene because we speculate that this moment was very important for the future of what would become WNYC.
Hey, is this what I speaking to when broadcasting?
Yes, sir, Mr. Whalen.
All right. You let me know when it's time. And, what's your name?
Raymond Asserson, sir, lately of the Navy.
Well, Engineer Asserson, we're gonna need some fine men like you when we finally get a transmitter and a license for land station CONY.
CONY? Now, what's that, Mr. Whalen?
Well, that's our call sign, of course. It'll be CONY for City of New York.
That is not possible, sir. Under the Bureau of Navigation rules, the call sign must begin with a W.
Oh, great. So, maybe we should call it WNYC if the Radio Trust ever lets me have a transmitter. And, you know, I heard there was a second-hand one for sale in Brazil.
Very good, sir. It's time for your speech, actually.
Oh, all right. Thank you. Yes. The Department of Plant and Structures is a distinctly public institution, and its function is to preserve and make the operational works of the city available to all within the city departments and this great metropolis.
I must have fallen asleep. The microphone, it's still on.
Is it my turn?
What is that signal?
All right.
What is that voice?
Okay.
Mesmerizing.
All right, here I go. 100 years is a long time for any media company to survive, much less a non-profit, non-commercial station like WNYC.
WNYC? 100 years?
And in a way, we have the station's first engineer to thank, Raymond Asserson, lately of the Navy.
Raymond Asserson? That's me.
As a matter of fact, it was Asserson who helped Whalen defy the corporate power of the Radio Trust and get that second-hand transmitter from Brazil. In 1924, Asserson testified before the Congressional Committee on the Merchant Marine, which oversaw radio.
We feel there ought to be at least one radio station in New York City under the control of the city and under the control of the officers elected by the people, responsible to the people.
WNYC's first broadcast took place the night of July 8th, 1924. They had a small budget, but there was no money for programming. WNYC had to borrow records from shops and private collectors. Other times it relied on its music director, Herman Newman, to vamp some tunes on the studio piano.
In between musical programs, WNYC tried to be useful to the people of New York. For a while, police used the station like an actual police radio, sending out coded and often not so coded alerts for suspects on the lam. Like a municipal C-SPAN, the station broadcast city council meetings and other public affairs, like the foreign language lessons with Professor Berlitz.
Buenas noches, señoras, señoritas, y señores. This evening we meet again for our weekly Spanish lessons for the courtesy of station WNYC.
Listeners often heard from the city's fire chief.
Suppose we try a little fire prevention talk. Americans are paying an even higher price for carelessness. In New York City last year, the price was 130 lives. It's quiz time.
WNYC offered recipes for leftover roast beef, it spread public health messages, and sometimes we even got to have some fun. Nerdy municipal fun.
WNYC, the voice of the city, again presents your city government. Every week, 2 teams from among 16 municipal departments vie against each other in our transcribed contest of civic facts and figures. A challenging quiz and an informative public service.
But the more WNYC tried to be useful, the more politicians called it useless. Headlines noted that the station was sitting on increasingly valuable broadcasting real estate. By the mid-30s, New York was a booming radio town. NBC and CBS offered up live minstrel shows, and music, soap operas, and a few high-minded dramas. But nothing like public radio existed in America, and it wouldn't for decades. Little WNYC stood alone, modest and useful, as mayor after mayor threatened to sell it off.
With the power vested in me as the newly elected mayor of New York City, I, Fiorello H. LaGuardia, now declare you, Seymour Siegel, to be the assistant program director of station WNYC. Now, go across the street and shut that joint down.
Wow. Talk about a Great Depression. I finally get a decent job in radio, and now I have to put myself out of work. Why should I shut this joint down? It's a little tattered, but people love WNYC. Plus, the views up here are fantastic. The voice of the people should at least have a chance to celebrate its 10th birthday. Siegel here.
Mr. Siegel, the mayor here. The papers won't give me a break. I want to go to WNYC and tell the people what I mean to do. I'll see you in an hour.
But I thought... Okay, sure. We'll be waiting for you to come and speak to all the people. Bye.
And so Mayor LaGuardia went from being WNYC's would-be executioner to its greatest advocate. He addressed New Yorkers every week in a series called Talk to the People. He spoke about meat shortages and food rationing during World War II. During a newspaper delivery strike, he famously read the funnies to the kids. Dick Tracy, for instance.
Here's Dick Tracy. You remember where our little friend is in the laundry wagon. Now here, the first picture is the laundry wagon. It's a yellow laundry wagon.
But no mayor lasts forever. Seymour Siegel was now WNYC's director, struggling to keep the lights on as New York lurched from one budget crisis to another. The sale price for WNYC was always tempting, prompting the constant charge that the station was useless.
There was one bright spot, making friends outside the city. Cy Siegel began mailing tapes of WNYC programs to other non-commercial radio stations on the Eastern Seaboard, and he got their programs from them in return. They called it the Bicycle Network. It was a win-win. It was the very beginning of what would, in a couple of decades, become public radio. WNYC was already middle-aged by May of 1971 when listeners got to hear the first edition of All Things Considered from NPR in Washington.
Thousands of young people came to Washington willing to risk being arrested in order to end the war. They went into the streets this morning to stop the government from functioning by clogging many Washington roads during this morning's rush hour.
WNYC was part of something bigger now, public radio. It had its own newsroom, its television station, and AM and FM signals. It was useful. But in the 70s, a citywide budget crisis put the squeeze on the station yet again.
Mayor Lindsay, this is horrible. If you cut a third of our budget, we can't be on the air enough hours in the day. We'll lose our broadcast license. There aren't enough people here. You know there's nothing left to take. Well, Mr. Mayor, you already have my resignation letter on your desk. Goodbye. Well, that's it, I guess. I've survived 5 mayors, and the station is almost 50 years old. I never thought it would end up like this.
Cy Siegel went on to teach and to head the Broadcasting Foundation of America, bringing international programs to American ears. Meanwhile, WNYC got its own fundraising committee headed by none other than Marie LaGuardia, widow of the mayor who once told Siegel to shut the joint down. Eventually, it became a foundation with the goal to keep WNYC safe from its owner, the city of New York.
In the mid-90s, Rudy Giuliani decided to sell WNYC. But by now, the foundation was ready. After a lot of wrangling, it convinced the mayor to sell WNYC to itself. In 1997, the station finally got independence. And all of a sudden, and all at once, a flurry of new eras began.
People were crowding around watching the 2 holes in the Trade Center and all the flames that were spewing out. The building is falling right now.
This is special coverage of Hurricane Sandy.
They are taking on water in all the lower Manhattan tubes under the East River.
Live special coverage of the historic 8 p.m. curfew happening in New York City.
You're
listening
to Radio Lab.
Oh, wait. Listener supported. WNYC Studios.
Some children grew up knowing the themes to the Brady Bunch and those sorts of television shows, and I could always hum the theme to All Things Considered.
Not many media companies in the U.S. can count 100 candles on their birthday cake.
We don't know what the future will bring, but we do know that every decade, WNYC has observed its birthday on air, kind of like this, telling listeners the story of its unlikely birth. It seems safe to predict that if we make it to 110, someone will probably be impersonating Grover Whalen again.
Which means WNYC is still a useful station, sailing on the seas of time.
Give it up for Brooke Gladstone and Micah Loewinger, the co-host of On the Media. Also, WNYC Director of Archives Andy Lancet played Grover Whalen, and senior promotions producer Rex Stone was Fiorello LaGuardia, and Adam Pod was at the keys. Thanks also to the New York City Municipal Archives and the New York Public Radio Archives for all the great sounds and images of the past. And of course, and for those of you who don't know, you can catch On the Media Fridays at 9 p.m., Saturdays at 7 a.m., and Sundays at 10 a.m. on WNYC. Okay, time now for another round of trivia. We cover a lot of topics on the Brian Lehrer Show. One of our favorites, and I would say, judging by our phones, many listeners' obsession is transportation. I've never heard of a round of applause for transportation before, but it never fails to get the people talking and get them generally ticked off at the MTA or the person next to them on the subway sticking a backpack in their face. So now our next trivia game will be about 100 years of moving around our listening area. Sean, do we have a contestant?
Sure do. Everybody make some noise for Nicola. Nicola's from Harlem. She's been listening to WNYC for 2 decades. Her favorite thing about WNYC is Brian.
Hi.
Hey, Nicola.
Hi, Brian.
All right, we're going to start with a genuine 100-year history question. True or false? In 1924, when WNYC first signed on, there was already an underground subway in the city.
What year was that?
1924. This is a centennial, you know, so it was.
Yes, that's true.
True is right. It had opened 20 years earlier in 1904. All right, another deep track history question. I think this one's harder. New York City boasts more than 650 miles of dedicated cycling space, including extensive bike lanes. But prior to recent history, the city didn't have bicycles baked into the infrastructure, in part because of the philosophy of a very famous urban planner and public official known for prioritizing. Does she get a lifeline to all of you? Prioritizing private cars and roadways. In fact, you may not know this audience, his 1938 plan for bicycles stated, "Bicycles have no place in public highways." Who said that?
Robert Moses.
Is right. All right. We probably have time for one more in this set. More transportation, almost 100-year history. In 1936, the Triborough Bridge opened, so named because it goes to Manhattan, the Bronx, and Queens. Duh. A very business-like, practical name. It was later renamed with these famous initials that belong to a beloved public figure. What initials replaced the name Triborough on that bridge?
RFK.
And more WNYC swag gets slung into the crowd. Radio listeners, I wish you could see this. All right, bonus question. Tee up one more, just in case. His son, RFK Jr., was... Did he get more booze or more laughs? I'm not sure. Was recently in the news for doing something right here in Central Park as what he thought was a funny prank. What was that RFK Jr. Central Park prank? Do you know?
Didn't he decapitate a bear?
How did you put it? He what?
He decapitated a bear?
Well, I'm going to call that close. He did not decapitate a bear.
He's got a lot of animal stories.
He put a dead bear in the park.
Oh, okay.
And the transportation angle, why am I asking this in a transportation set? He staged it to make it look like the bear was killed by a bicycle. How many of you knew that? How many of you think RFK's prank was really funny and the guy has a great sense of humor?
No.
Oh, yeah, okay. All right, audience, you got that one right. So sling them another prize. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. You did great.
Give it up for Nicola.
All right, this is our WNYC and Friends Summer Stage event. Sean Carlson representing the WNYC side of that equation, and music producer Donwill taking care of the and Friends side of things. They are going to stay close for our next round of trivia coming up in a few minutes, where we'll ask about things that were already around back in 1924 when the station first started, or things that didn't come about until after. So we'll ask an audience member for an over-under on things like music, certain local landmarks, and famous people. But first I'm going to do something I do just about every weekday at the end of my regular radio show. I'm going to pass the mic to WNYC's own Alison Stewart, whose show, all of it, comes on at noon to 2. Alison, come on out.
Hey everybody, I'm Alison Stewart. I host all of it. Thank you. I am very excited to bring forth a singer-songwriter who just announced their album is coming out. We'll tell you a little bit more about that. She's also just come off of opening for an act at Madison Square Garden. mxmtoon, come to the stage. I know it's over. Hi. Yeah. Hi. So last time I saw you, we were at Get Lit with All of It, right? It was a really intimate thing at the library. And then 2 months later, well, actually longer than that, back in the summer, you opened for AJR at Madison Square Garden. First of all, what was that like?
Oh my gosh, I never expected to ever play MSG in my entire life, so really surreal, yeah.
You wrote on your Instagram after that, 2018, I played my first gig in New York. I was opening for the opener of another artist at Baby's All Right in Williamsburg. The crowd consisted of my managers, my booking agent, and my dad. In 2020, I moved to Brooklyn, and last week I had the honor of stepping on stage to sing at the world's most iconic arena for the Maybe Man Tour. I'm moving in the fall, and I feel particularly lucky to get to bookend my chapter in my new life with what will definitely be one of the most insane achievements of my life. First of all, where are you going?
I'm going to Nashville, Tennessee. Yeah.
Good choice, good choice. Well, what will you take with you that makes us know that you are a New Yorker?
Oh my gosh, probably like all of my leftover subway cards, probably my endless collection of tote bags from just walking around, and probably the general resting do not talk to me face that I carry with me on a daily basis. Yeah.
That's good to bring with you. You have a new album coming out. It's called Liminal Space. What does that title mean to you?
Liminal space to me is kind of about expressing stories over transitory periods of your life. And I think I'm 24, I'm really young, but I have been growing up in front of an audience online for almost 7 years at this point. And I think that that allows you to really have a very strange relationship with growing up. And I think oftentimes has left me in a place where I don't really know how to describe where I am. So it feels very liminal, yeah. Mm-hmm.
I was listening to the record, and it's got a little country vibe to it. What were you going for? A lot of guitars.
I feel like country music is never something I thought I would write, but I did end up writing a lot of this record in Nashville, and by nature of doing that, it ended up influencing a little bit of what I was making, but my core, I'm a singer-songwriter, and so it was fun to connect with that. Mm-hmm.
And will you please come back to New York?
Oh, absolutely. I'm going to come back to New York as often as I can.
mxmtoon, the new album Liminal Space, will be out November 1st. Here's mxmtoon. Nice to see you.
Nice to see you. Hello. First of all, I'm so excited to be here. I love WNYC, and I was just here last summer for another SummerStage event, so this is really awesome, in full circle that I get to be back here again. This is amazing. I am going to play you a song off of the record that's coming out later this year, Liminal Space, and it was the first single that I released, and it's called I Hate Texas. And so if you have... Okay, awesome, yeah, I knew this was New York. But if you have any sentimental feelings about Texas, I'm sorry, but I'm not that sorry. So this is I Hate Texas. I'm
getting ready to go outside. I haven't left my apartment in a real long time. I'm making friends with the stars at night. They can see in my eyes. Count to 3, close the door, hope I'm fine. Got a couple of flaws to hide. I'm reclaiming my life because I know that it's mine. I think we knew that you're losing your shine. So I lied to myself, but I think that it helps say goodbye. Shutting down the days on my computer. And I'm playing life offline while you play shooters. And I'm wanting change so bad that I'll go southern, find another brand new beginning. I swear to God, if I run into you and you don't even know the half of it, I'm moving states and I'll never admit, but you ruined New York, so I had to quit. I'm turning every corner with exceeding caution, hoping, praying, begging that you're not in Austin. I hate Texas, but the exits have more room to run away from you. You piss me off for the final time. It's aggravating that you wouldn't notice if you tried. Should've read all the warning signs. Called up HGTV. I got a fixer-upper right inside. Trying hard to forget your face. I want my own to be something that you can't escape. Grinning harder now just in case. So you know that my pain became the reason that I am in first place. And I'm shutting down the days on my computer. And I'm playing life offline while you play shooters. And I'm wanting change so bad that I'll go southern, find another brand new beginning. I swear to God, if I run into you and you don't even know the half of it, I'm moving states and I'll never admit, but you ruined New York, so I had to quit. I'm turning every corner with exceeding caution, hoping, praying, begging that you're not in Austin. I hate Texas, but the exits have more room to run away from you.
Thank you very much. I have a couple more songs. And if anybody knows anything about me, I started my journey with music on the ukulele and YouTube and had a dream. And I never expected to be able to move to New York City, start playing songs for people in crowds like this. I'm from Oakland, California, if anybody is familiar with the Bay Area. All right. Okay, let's go. And I've, been making music now for way longer than I ever thought I would. And this next one is from my second album that I released in 2022 called Rising. And the song is called Mona Lisa. And it's just about how, gosh, being an artist is exhausting. I wish someone else would make art about me. Like, what's up with that? So this song is Mona Lisa. I've always played the part of Shakespeare. I hide behind the ink and pen. I build up worlds and choose a savior. I write beginning, middle, end. I'm so tired of being a book on the shelf, tired of stories for somebody else. Think that I'm ready to start a new chapter. I've been looking for some way to turn it around, looking for someone to give me the crown. I wanna feel like I finally matter. I wanna be a Mona
that you can dream of. And I always have the words, but I don't want to say it. Wish I could paint a smile on my face. I want to be a Mona Lisa. So is there anybody out there who can change my point of view? The way that Van Gogh uses yellow, or the self in Frida Kahlo, I could be that for you. But I'm so tired of being a book on the shelf, tired of stories for somebody else. Think that I'm ready to start a new chapter. I've been looking for some way to turn it around, looking for someone to give me the crown. I wanna feel like I finally matter. I wanna be a Mona Lisa. The kind of girl that you can dream of. And I always have the words, but I don't want to say it. Wish I could paint a smile on my face. I want to be a Mona Lisa.
Thank you guys for being so kind. This is my last song. It's called Prom Dress.
I'm nearing the end of my 4th year. I feel like I've been lacking, crying too many tears. Everyone seemed to say it was so great, but did I miss out? Was it a huge mistake? I can't help the fact I like to be alone. It might sound kinda sad, but that's just what I seem to know. I tend to handle things usually by myself, and I can't ever seem to try and ask for help. I'm sitting here crying in my prom dress. I'd be the prom queen if crying was a contest. Makeup is running down, feelings are all around. How did I get here? I need to know. I guess I maybe had a couple expectations. Thought I'd get to them, but no, I didn't. I guess I thought that prom was gonna be fun, but now I'm sitting on the floor and all I wanna do is run. I keep collections of masks upon my wall to try and stop myself from revealing it all. Affecting others is the last thing I would do. I keep to myself though I want to break through. I hold so many small regrets and what ifs down inside my head. Some confidence that couldn't hurt me. My demeanor is often misread. I'm sitting here crying in my prom dress. I'd be the prom queen if crying was a contest. Makeup is running down, feelings are all around. How did I get here? I need to know. I guess I maybe had a couple expectations. Thought I'd get to them, but no, I didn't. I guess I thought that prom was gonna be fun, but now I'm sitting on the floor and all I wanna do is run. All I wanna do is run.
Give it up for mxmtoon. Thank you for celebrating our centennial with us. Now, of course, many of us are here in person in Central Park for the WNYC and Friends Centennial celebration here at SummerStage. First, though, for the radio audience, there is some business that I have to get to. You might be familiar with it. You're listening to WNYC FM HD and AM New York, WNJT FM 88.1 Trenton, WNJP 88.5 Sussex, WNJY 89.3 Netcong, and WNJO 90.3 Toms River. We are New York and New Jersey Public Radio.
New York and New Jersey Public Radio. New York and New Jersey Public Radio. New York and New Jersey Public Radio. New York and New Jersey Public Radio. New York and New Jersey Public Radio. New York and New Jersey Public Radio. New York and New Jersey Public Radio. New York and New Jersey Public Radio. New York and New Jersey Public Radio. New York and New Jersey Public Radio. New York and New Jersey Public Radio. New York and New Jersey Public Radio. New York and New Jersey Public Radio. New York and New Jersey Public Radio. New York and New Jersey Public Radio. New York and New Jersey Public Radio. New York and New Jersey Public Radio. New York and New Jersey Public Radio. New York and New Jersey Public Radio. New York and New Jersey Public Radio. New York and New
AARP New York City is a supporter of WNYC Centennial, helping New York's public radio station reach hundreds of thousands of engaged listeners who have made WNYC part of their daily routine. More at wnyc.org/100.
Live from Central Park, this is WNYC and Friends Centennial Celebration. I'm Sean Carlson. Let's welcome your host back to the stage, Brian Lehrer.
Thank you, Sean. And once again, I don't think I've ever seen so many public radio nerds in one place. Let's go right on to our next and final round of trivia. This time our game is about what was and what wasn't already a part of the city in 1924, the year WNYC was born. Sean, do we have a contestant?
We do. Make some noise for Rhonda Kirshner, everybody. Rhonda Kirshner lives on the Upper West Side. She doesn't remember how long she's been listening to WNYC, but for as long as she can remember, 50 years plus. Those are her words.
Welcome, welcome, welcome. And our first question will be a musical one. Donwill, hit it.
Oh, Rhapsody in Blue.
But that's not the question. The question is, was Rhapsody in Blue by George Gershwin released before, after, or in 1924?
In
is right. And for those of you listening on the radio, you cannot see our trio of slingshotters slinging swag into the crowd each time a contestant gets an answer right. And did I see 3 different pieces of swag go out that time? Is that? Up to 4. Oh, it's up to 4 now. Okay, now we're going to go at a fast pace. None of these other ones, these things, are going to be in 1924. So the question is, before or after WNYC was born? Yankee Stadium.
Ooh. Before.
Before is right. Look at that swag go. 1923, the year before. Central Park, before or after WNYC?
Definitely before.
Definitely before, in 1858. How about the Empire State Building?
Ooh. I think after.
After is correct.
I think 1931, maybe? Yeah.
Home of the WNYC transmitter, the Empire State Building was built from 1930 to 1931. Could they build a 100-story building in 1 year today?
And it only took 18 months to build it. It was a miracle.
Unbelievable. You know your history. How about the Stonewall Inn?
Ooh.
Obviously, it became world famous after 1969.
Right.
But
I would
was
say
it built
before.
It was after.
Ooh. The original Stonewall Inn was founded in 1930 as a speakeasy on 7th Avenue South that relocated to Christopher Street in 1934.
Sean is the keeper of the correct
And I was just there a
answers.
few months ago, and I read the plaque.
We appreciate that.
How about McSorley's Old Ale House?
That was before.
That was before.
Yeah.
1854. No wonder they called it old. How about the Dakota?
The Dakota before.
Before. Co-op built between 1880 and 1884. Today a National Historic Landmark. The building, we have read, was one of the first large developments on the Upper West Side and is the oldest remaining luxury apartment building in New York City. How about Ellis Island? Before?
Oh,
or after?
way before.
Way before. Opened in 1900. The Williamsburg Bridge. Not the
Ooh,
Brooklyn Bridge.
I think
The
before.
Before,
I think.
1903. Radio City Music Hall.
I think after. 'Cause it's
After
Art
is
Deco.
correct.
Yeah.
1932. And I think that is very accurate to nail it as Deco. It was built as part of the construction of Rockefeller Center at that time. Last one. Oh, what happened there? Oh, we had a dud on the slingshot. This is like, but you people are very well behaved because since it landed in front of the audience, there could have been a scramble, like for Aaron Judge's 60-second home run ball or something like that, but not quite. Bronx Zoo. Did I say that already? Oh, that's the last one.
Ooh. I would say after.
Ooh, 1899.
Really?
Yeah.
Sorry, Rhonda.
I was surprised too. I didn't know they started treating animals as attractions in cages that early. Okay, bonus round, real quick.
Bonus round, okay.
These are true or false questions about human beings. Were they born in 1924 or were they born some other time? Okay, 1924 birthdays or not. James Baldwin. Yes
True.
or no? True, yes. Sling. Shirley Chisholm.
True.
True, 1924. Oh, they're going to sling diagonally now. That did not work. For those of you listening on the radio, people in the front row are getting a lot of this sweat. Two more. Ed Koch, 1924?
No.
Yes.
I thought he was
And last
younger.
one.
I thought he was younger.
Last one, Jimmy Carter.
Jimmy?
Carter. President
Yes.
Jimmy Carter.
Yes, yes.
Yes, as a matter of fact, in just 3 weeks, on October 1st, karma willing, he will turn 100.
God bless him.
Congratulations, you were a great contestant.
Show some love to Rhonda Kirshner, everybody.
That was wonderful. All right, and that's all the time we have.
That's the love for Rhonda that we're talking about. Thanks.
Next up, one of the things that listeners love on our air is storytelling. And whether that's in the form of a Radiolab story, or on the investigation series Reveal, or on The Moth, which we air Wednesdays and Saturdays on WNYC. And those stories all come from regular people who share their stories in front of live audiences for The Moth. And we've got a pretty live audience here, that is obvious. So for this part of the evening, we're going to invite out a storyteller who shared her story at one of the Moth's weekly New York City Story Slams. So as she joins us to share her story, let's welcome Gabrielle Shea.
Last year, when the R&B crooner Bobby Caldwell died, the rapper Common posted a sweet tribute. At the time, I had no idea that these two musical geniuses with very different styles were connected to each other and to me. When I was 19, my dad agreed to letting me go to Cancun with my two best friends. But he said, you gotta earn your own spending money. We were young and broke, so we spent countless hours perusing the Village Voice, looking for the right gig. To no avail. We couldn't find anything. I went home and I cried to my cousin, and he said, look, I work for this uniform store. The owner is pretty nice. I guarantee he'll give you something. So I went in for an interview, and sure enough, I got hired on the spot. On the first day, I met the assistant manager, this pretty cool white dude named Frank. Frank and I became fast friends. We hung out at the store, we ate lunch together, we talked on the phone all the time. But it wasn't until he became my first call in the morning and my last call at night that I started to realize that my feelings were changing. But it was a little nerve-wracking because I'm Haitian, Frank was Irish, and different races, cultures, backgrounds. Even in New York City, not everyone was gonna be happy with the relationship. But we decided to give it a shot anyway. Our first official date was to a Common concert. I remember sitting in the last row of the Hammerstein Ballroom thinking, damn, this white boy from Flatbush, Brooklyn put me on. He was a huge hip hop fan, and I eventually became one too. As Common started to perform his song, The Light, Frank put his arm around me, held me close, and in that moment, I knew that we were in it for the long haul. And that song became our song. Over the next few months, Frank and I enjoyed getting to know each other. He wrote me love letters all the time. He brought me these cute little gifts and he would leave them on my doorstep. And he took me to see Rent 5 times just because it was my favorite. I mean, he was sweet. It was my first real relationship, so I was on cloud 9. About 2 years after that first date, Frank and I ended up at yet another Common concert. But this time, it was at the iconic SOBs. Now, if you've ever been to SOBs, you know it's a small, intimate venue where sometimes the celebs are mingling with Gen Pop. So we're just hanging out when all of a sudden, in walks Questlove from The Roots. As he strolls past us, Frank taps him on the shoulder and he says something to him. Quest then turns to me and says, "Hi, I'm Amir." Okay. I look at him, take his hand, and say, "Hi, I'm Gabrielle." He was about to say something else, but Frank stopped him, and then he quickly walked away. I thought the exchange was a little weird, but, I let it go. The concert begins, and about 4 or 5 songs in, Common starts with, "I never knew a love like this." And I back up a little bit. I get a little closer to Frank, and I start swaying to the music because I am feeling the vibe. When all of a sudden, he taps me on the shoulder. And my first thought is, are you kidding me? The man is performing our song on the stage, and you have the audacity to interrupt? So I slowly begin to turn around because I am about to tell him off. But when I do, I am rendered speechless because I am now face to face with the most beautiful diamond ring I have ever seen in my life. I was so overjoyed that I don't even know if I said yes. I just hugged him and just held on tight. Erykah Badu grabs my hand to check out the bling. Music Soul Child says congratulations. Bilal gives Frank a pound. Questlove runs over to snap a picture. And the entire audience goes crazy. Honestly, I couldn't have even written it better myself. On the drive home, Frank proceeds to share his master plan. So what happened was a couple of weeks before the concert, he had posted a message on okplayer.com saying that he was gonna propose to his girlfriend. So everyone in the audience knew what was going down, except for me. For some strange reason, that night, I also decided to email Questlove. It was the 2000s, early 2000s, very different time. And to my surprise, he hit me back, and he sent me the picture that he had taken of us. Now, this entire time, I was sure that Common had no idea as to what was going on. But recently, I came across an interview where he was asked about the wildest thing that happened at a concert of his. And he said, well, a few years ago, I was, having this concert in New York City, and as I'm performing The Light, I look into the audience and notice this weeping woman, only to find out that she had just been proposed to by her boyfriend. Now, for the record, I was not weeping, but it was nice to know that he remembered us. Ironically, around the same time that I came across this interview was when Bobby Caldwell died. I didn't know who Bobby Caldwell was. Eventually, I realized that I recognized some of his songs. I didn't even know that he was a white guy. He didn't sound like one. But as they announced his passing on the radio, they played this song called Open Your Eyes. It was his song. And I was shocked to learn that Bobby Caldwell's Open Your Eyes was the basis for Common's song, The Light. So in essence, without Bobby Caldwell's song, there would not be Common's song, and we wouldn't have our song. Last week, Frank and I celebrated 20 years of marriage. Thank you. Common has 3 beautiful goddaughters that he has yet to meet. And, my girls, they constantly make fun of me because I am old school. I keep everything. So I have the concert tickets from many years ago. I have a printout of the picture that Questlove took of us. And I have an article where Common was asked about the impact that his music has on his fans. And he mentioned us. I hold on to these relics because I like the reminder that one of my favorite hip-hop artists was a part of my story. But it also warms my heart to know that we too are a little part of his.
Let's hear it for Gabrielle Shea. What a beautiful story, right? And what a perfect example of the power of storytelling that we know is so important to connecting people and ideas and experiences, something we consider a central part of our public radio mission. And so stories like Gabrielle's are near and dear to us. So tune in to The Moth on WNYC Wednesdays at 8 p.m. and Saturdays at 2 p.m. and learn how you can be an audience member or a storyteller at moth.org if you're interested. And as part of our celebration of our centennial, we also want to invite you to share your stories anytime, your New York stories. We have a portal for that now. We will be sharing select stories on our website or social media or on the air, and it could be about a chance encounter, a shared experience on the subway, or a random conversation on a street corner that led to something beautiful, surprising, or maybe a little weird, or just plain unforgettable. To tell your story, scan the QR code on the screen, or go to our Centennial website, wnyc.org/100, wnyc.org/100. Join us with your voices if you would like. Now, I welcome to the stage a WNYC legend, the host of our music shows, New Sounds and Soundcheck, and the longest-serving host on WNYC. Let's welcome John Schaefer.
My daughter was reading one just the other day.
Hi, Brian.
Hey, John.
Hello, Central Park. Brian and I have spent many a fine evening here wearing the colors of the WNYC softball team.
John has come out in the WNYC softball uniform shirt. I didn't play this year. How did we do?
Actually, pretty well. We left our media league, so we're back to being an independent.
And we play like really, extreme jock places like what? Lincoln Center, Channel 13.
American Museum of Natural History, they got some bangers there.
I bet they do. They got those bones they can use, everything. When I started in 1989, you were already there 8 years, and I was already a fanboy of you being a DJ. My question for you for today is in this era of algorithms choosing our next track, how do you see the special value in your role as a human curator of music on the radio? Serious question.
Yeah, and a really good one, because it's kind of like, the writer faced with the blank page. When you have unlimited options, how do you know where to begin? So as we have everything available to us, increasingly in the digital age, it becomes harder and harder to figure out where to go next. And so it becomes even more important to have voices you trust, editors, gatekeepers, whatever you want to label them. So I think that what we do at WNYC and on our classical station, WQXR, is even more important now than it was when there were lots of other people doing the same things that we're doing.
Here, here. So, everybody, we're about to hear some music from someone who WNYC actually has a very long relationship with. The station commissioned Laurie Anderson to write some music for WNYC's 50th birthday.
The WNYC FM 50th birthday, which was 1994. So the FM station went on in 44.
So
94
for the FM station's 50th birthday, thank you for correcting that. And that's the music that we heard a little of as you were walking out here. And so here she is joining us for our 100th birthday as well in a second. John, just tell us how the worlds of WNYC and Laurie Anderson have intersected historically.
Well,
here she comes, so come on, folks.
Hi, John.
So, John, talk a little bit as I back away about how WNYC and Laurie Anderson have intersected historically.
Okay, so September 1982, I start my show, New Sounds. I'd been there for a year or so. I started New Sounds September 3rd, 1982, basically playing my own record collection. And someone from BAM called me in December and said, we have Laurie Anderson doing her big United States thing, 2-night show, multimedia. Would you like to have her for an interview? And I thought, well, yeah. And so in January of 1983, we aired our first interview on New Sounds, and it was with Laurie. And United States, Laurie, is not just ancient history anymore. You're working on, it was a 4-part piece over 2 nights. You are now working on what is essentially a 5th part. Called The Ark. Yeah. What does that refer to?
That's a ship that's going to save us. So it's just what we're going to do with things. It's a kind of retelling of the story of Ark. It's called United States 5.
And this is something that comes on the heels of your new record called Amelia, about the final flight of Amelia Earhart. And if you missed our program about that, you can find it online at newsounds.org. It's a wonderful record, and Laurie has a great story to tell about the making of it and all the research and stuff that went into it. When you do a project like that, do you do a lot of research normally?
Yeah, I had to kind of think about what it would be like to fly around the world and why she would do that also. That was part of what I was thinking of. But also, I just found out she left a lot of things around because she married her press agent. That's one thing you should know about her. So she was the first blogger. She was writing constantly about where she was landing and what she was doing and her flight. It was really, I'm just in love with this person. She was so amazing.
Well, we have been fans of yours for 40+ years now, and you've been a
You
great
need to
friend.
update your shirt. You know, this is Schaefer 30, but he's been there longer than that.
This shirt, this
Yeah.
edition of the shirt was done for my 30th anniversary at WNYC, at which Laurie Anderson performed. And one of my favorite photos of my time at WNYC is the Green Space crew. They all had these shirts, and at the end of the evening, they all stood with their backs to the camera wearing these Schaefer 30 shirts. And it's just a wonderful little photo. And you'll see a lot of those. They're the ones wearing the white overalls that have been hitting you with swag during the course of the evening. Yes, an applause for the staff of the Green Space. Sexmob.
Here they are, Sexmob.
You have done, you've toured with them. Maybe we get to hear a little recording of you with them in the not too distant future. Stephen Bernstein is one of New York's,
Yay,
I was going to
Stephen.
say hidden treasures. He's not so hidden. He's been around forever. He's an amazing arranger. And the band is like, you know, just this kind of killer lineup of musicians.
Doug Weasel, Tony Scher, Kenny Willison, Briggen Krause. They're the best. Guys.
And so you're going to do a couple of songs. One is one of your own songs, and the other is from a different project, and I'm not going to say anything about it. But here is Laurie Anderson with Sexmob live.
You know, lately, with the elections coming up, there's so many experts who are analyzing what's going to happen and, you know, what it means. And I'm thinking of all the thought leaders, the influencers, the consultants, and of course, the political pundits, the experts who know what's real and what's just another really bizarre story. Now, only an expert can deal with the problem, because half the problem is seeing the problem. And only an expert can deal with the problem. Only an expert can deal with the problem. So if there's no expert dealing with the problem, it's really actually twice the problem. Because only an expert can deal with the problem, only an expert can deal with the problem. Now in America, we like solutions. We like solutions to problems. And there's so many companies that offer solutions. Companies with names like the pet solution, the hair solution, the debt solution, the world solution, the sushi solution. Companies with experts ready to solve these problems. Because only an expert can see there's a problem, and only an expert can deal with the problem. Only an expert can deal with the problem. Only an expert can deal with the problem, and only an expert can deal with the problem, and only an expert can deal with the problem. And then there are the experts who say the problem with America is democracy. Just too many of the wrong kind of people making the decisions. And these experts say, what we need here is a dictator. Someone who can take control. Someone who can get to the heart of the problem, solve the problems, make things efficient, maybe with a new commission, without all that voting. But don't forget, this has nothing to do with the 60% of the US population who are barely getting by, who are 1.3 weeks away, 1.3 paychecks away from a shelter. In other words, people with problems. So when experts say, let's get to the root of the problem, let's take control of the problem. So if you take control of the problem, you can solve the problem. Now often this doesn't work at all because the situation is completely out of control. Only an expert can deal with the problem. Only an expert can deal with the problem. expert can deal with the problem. And sometimes, if it's really, really hot, and it's July and January, and there's no more snow and huge waves are wiping out cities, and hurricanes are everywhere. Everyone knows it's a problem. But if some experts say it's no problem, and other experts claim it's no problem, and explain why it's no problem, then it's simply not a problem. 'Cause only an expert can deal with the problem, and only an expert can deal with the problem. Only an expert can deal with the problem. And even though a country can invade another country and flatten it and ruin it and create civil war in that other country, if the experts say it's not a problem, everyone agrees they're experts and good at solving problems, then invading that country is simply not a problem. And if a country tortures people and holds citizens without cause or trial, and sets up military tribunals, this is also not a problem, unless there's an expert who says this is the beginning of a problem. So only an expert can deal with the problem, and only an expert can deal with the problem, and only an expert can deal with the problem.
Would you come to me if I was half drowning? An arm above the last wave. Would you come to me? Would you pull me up? Would the effort really hurt you? Is it unfair to ask you to help pull me up?
Thank you, and thank you, Sexmob.
Give it up for Laurie Anderson and Sexmob. That was amazing. She's got the lyrics. She's got the music. She even employs a horn section. Props for employing a horn section in 2024. All right, on we go. Back when WNYC was only on the air for 60 years, we did an experiment with children's radio that became a popular show all across the country. One of the young producers who worked on the show went by the name Bob Public Radio. See if you recognize the voice.
Parents sometimes argue in front of their children, but kids say they don't like it. In a recent survey on the radio program Kids America, 67 children called in to say that parents should not argue in front of kids, while only 12 children approved of such arguments.
So folks, any guesses who that was? Shout it out. That's right, from This American Life, please welcome Ira Glass. The one, the only, Ira Glass. So, Ira, just for the sake of the history theme of this event, how did young Ira Glass, before This American Life, become a character in a kids show?
My mentor. There was a guy who I worked for at NPR in Washington. His name was Keith Talbot, and basically half of everything I know about radio I learned from him. He came to WNYC to start Kids America, which was, I have to say, it was really kind of an amazingly great show and an interesting experiment. This call-in show for children, and he dragged me over to WNYC once a week, and I became one of the characters on his show. Do it again. Kids America fan. I feel like Keith was
ask you to talk a little more about him, because I didn't know until you told me backstage that you, Ira Glass, had a mentor.
Yes. Keith was working at NPR in its earliest days in Washington, and his job was to invent new ways to do documentaries on the radio. And I feel like a whole generation of us just came out of that. Like, I never would be doing the job I'm doing now. He would do things like he would have things that became very standard, having characters in the stories, narrate the stories, but he also would have like fictional characters narrate the stories, or just make up characters to narrate stuff, and just sound design the hell out of it. And like, I came out of that. This American Life would not exist without him. Serial would not exist. Like, there's a whole generation, Heavyweight, Gimlet Media, like PJ Booth's show. Like, there's a whole world of us who came out of that.
I'm so glad he's getting a shout out tonight. All right, Ira, thanks for coming to our birthday party. I know everybody's looking forward to what you've got for us. Take it away.
Tomorrow and tomorrow and tomorrow creeps in this petty pace from day to day. It's the last syllable of recorded time. And all our yesterdays have lighted fools away to dusty death. Okay, now I can tell people that have done Shakespeare in the Park. Thought I'd use the rest of my time here at the Centennial to show my appreciation and respect to some just groundbreaking moments of radio that I loved, that aired on WNYC during these 100 years. And this is just people inventing new ways to use the medium itself. And this first clip I want to play you was broadcast on WNYC sometime around its 56th year of existence. This is 1980. This was on All Things Considered, and its 9th year on the air. And at the time, All Things Considered, and no disrespect to the current very excellent, very fine staff and hosts, All Things Considered was a much looser project, a looser bunch of people on the air on a very active mission to reimagine what radio could be. And the person at the time who pushed that spirit of innovation more than anybody else was a dazzling reporter in his early 30s whose name was Robert Krulwich. Many of you here know who he is. In those very early days, I feel like there's stuff of his that I remember loving as a baby reporter at NPR. I just thought, like, that's how you should do radio. And I couldn't believe that as I got older, I got to meet him. And I feel like nobody remembers this stuff. So I want to play one of his early a clip from one of his early pieces. In the early days of NPR, Robert was the business correspondent, typically the most boring job in the newsroom. And the way he did it was like no broadcaster had ever done before him. To illustrate the way the economy worked, he would create these funny little radio dramas where he would combine real quotes from experts and newsmakers with scenes and characters that he would invent. He would usually perform all the made-up characters himself, all the different voices himself. So for example, to explain the tough choice that the Federal Reserve Chairman Paul Volcker had back in 79 and 80 over whether to raise or lower interest rates, to explain what that actually meant, Robert conceived a 3-act opera, mostly in Italian, called Rotto Interresso. And Robert himself played a kind of stuffy classical music announcer who was supposedly broadcasting this opera on a classical station. Here's a clip as they head into the final act.
Now, in Act 3, we are now in Washington at the Federal Reserve Board. I see it's going to start in just a second. Angelino, Perugino, and Luigi are in the front hall making their appeals to Paul Volcker. He answers them in English. He must both defend the dollar and business conditions in America. Here, then, is Act 3 of Alberto Tucci's Rotto Interresso.
Ladies and gentlemen, we're face to face with economic difficulties really unique in our experience.
Robert would do this all the time. He explained the principles of Reaganomics with lab mice, who were really these speeded up voices of his coworkers. This is like on drive time national news, like the utter ridiculousness of it, the happy joy of it, just infused all of his work, and it just defied all normal expectations. I'm done with that page, that's fine. I'm not used to performing in a place where there's wind. I'll say to the radio audience, it's just a page of mine just blew away. So NPR had only been in the air for 10 years, right? So years pass, 2 decades pass, and we come to the next clip of tape I want to play you. It is WNYC's 80th year on the air. And Robert teams up with the young producer, Jad Abumrad, as the host of Radiolab. Jad, at the time, had just turned 31. And I feel like all of you who would come out to an event like this tonight in Central Park, you know what Radiolab is. I just want to say, as a radio producer, I feel like they don't get enough credit, actually, for just how new that was. And just, I feel like they were the cutting edge of radio anywhere in the world. They did this thing, the rarest thing that happens in any medium. They invented a completely new aesthetic that sounds like nothing before him. It was like a new way to think about how you structure and produce a radio show. And the idea is that on the surface, it's like this chatty, friendly show that's out for fun, but at the same time, it's serious journalism. And then the sound design just was done with a density and prettiness that I think nobody who did documentaries had really attempted in radio. I don't know of anyone who did. So I'm going to play you I know you guys have all heard this, but I'm going to play you the typical opening of a typical episode and just talk to you about what I hear when I hear it. This particular episode, Jed opens telling Robert about a young woman, this young woman. Hold on, stand by.
Hello, I'm Laura Buxton.
Laura Buxton. She was 10 years old when the story happened. She was living in an English town called Stoke-on-Trent. And one day, Jed tells Robert, she took a red balloon, she wrote on it, "Please return to Laura Buxton," and her address. It was a windy day. She stood in her front yard, held it up, and let go.
All right, now I'm looking at a map here of England, and Stoke-on-Trent is at the top, so
Yeah.
the balloon would have had to go south, pound down, past Stratford,
Yeah.
past Walsall,
Yeah.
past Wolverhampton, then past Birmingham,
Yeah.
past Kidderminster, past Worcester,
Yeah.
past...
Okay, I just want to say, I hear this, I feel very aware of the staging. Now, even before Jad did the interview, he must have known that to communicate this story, to get across what's going to be a key plot point, is that he's going to have to get across to the audience that this balloon traveled a great distance. And he has to think about the drama of that. How do you make people feel that? And so what he did is that his solution is very simple. He brought a map of England into the interview with him to go through the map with her, so you could kind of picture it in your head.
Past millions of people. Past Chettingham.
Yeah.
People with different lives, different names. Past Gloucester.
Gloucester.
Gloucester. And all in all, the red balloon goes about 140 miles.
140 miles anyway, and then finally it lands floats down to Earth, and it lands in the yard of a second girl in a town called Milton Lilbourne. Here is that second girl.
Our next door neighbour found it, and he thought it was just a bit of rubbish, and he collected it up so the cows wouldn't eat it. And he was about to put it in the bin, like literally, and then he saw the label saying, "Please send back to Laura Buxton," and he was like, "Oh my God."
Why? Why would he say, "Oh my God"?
Okay, so first of all, I don't even know what that ominous drum thing is. Like, they had to manufacture that. I wouldn't know how you do that. Apparently, Jad does.
Okay, so check this out. Remember how I told you that the first girl who sent the balloon was 10? Yeah. The second girl who received it?
I'm 10 years old.
She's 10. Okay?
Okay, just notice the music that is forming underneath him. Okay, I'm pushing it forward, and the feeling it has. Jad is a composer, and so he's writing and playing the music, in addition to doing the journalism, writing the story, hosting. And just notice in this next clip just how the music just like rises and moves through this thing.
Wait, there's more. Remember how I told you that the first girl's name?
Okay, so remember, first girl's 10, second girl's 10.
Wait, there's more. Remember how I told you that the first girl's name was Laura Buxton?
Yeah.
Well, girl number 2, can you introduce yourself?
Okay, hi, I'm Laura Buxton.
What?
Girl number 1.
Hello, I'm Laura Buxton.
Girl number 2.
Hello, I'm Laura Buxton.
They're both Laura Buxton?
Yeah.
No.
Yes.
Both named Laura Buxton.
Yes. You heard me right. A 10-year-old girl named Laura Buxton. Let's go of a balloon.
Okay, I just have to pause this again to just talk about this. Okay, so just the number of things that happen in that moment. First of all, he pulls out all the music for the dramatic moment. That's just like basic radio. You pull out the music, and then whatever you say next when the music is out seems very, very important. And then the thing happens. He reveals that they're both named Laura Buxton. There's that weird violin sting that they had to manufacture still from somewhere else. Music starts as a little penny whistle thing that he throws in after "Let's Go" of a balloon for no reason at all other than that seemed like a fun thing to do. Then a whole other piece of music comes in, this old vamp from what it sounds like an old Raymond Scott number, just completely wonderful musical choice. Again, I'm going to play you this like 8.5 seconds. And just notice how musical it is. Like it's documentary done as musical composition.
Yes. You heard me right. A 10-year-old girl named Laura Buxton. Let's go of a balloon.
Beat starts.
That balloon floats 140 miles and lands in the yard of another 10-year-old girl named Laura Buxton.
Is this for real?
Yes.
What a pretty
I think
clarinet
it might be the
choice.
strangest thing I've ever heard in my life.
It's pretty weird.
So weird, we had to get them both into a studio.
Hello, New York. This is London. Can you hear me?
So, like, we're gonna hear Americans through these.
We're going to hear Americans through these, she's saying. Okay, this is just the last thing I'm going to point out, and that is that thing where, like, they're setting up the microphones and you hear that as part of the story. Radiolab invented that, and they did it so often that it became so widespread by podcasters, people don't even know it began with them. Like, it's just one of these things that just everybody does now. Every episode of The Daily, when they're setting up the microphones and they're just like, Maggie Haberman, so what'd you have for lunch today? And before they actually said, that actually is stolen from 2009 Radiolab when that was cutting edge. Okay, we're like 3 minutes and 42 seconds into this episode. So you can see like how, when you're producing it in your head, which you do if you're a crazy person like me, how like you're appreciating it. That's just the setup. The episode and the whole story then turn out to be about a subject that's just as weird and original for a radio show as the production style. And it turns out to be a whole episode on the mathematical concept of stochasticity, of randomness, of numbers. There was an article about Robert and Jad in the New York Review of Books that pointed out in an almost comic attempt to make their job hard, the duo take on only the most difficult subjects from science and philosophy: time, morality, memory, forgetting, limits. Try doing an entertaining hour on the idea of limits. So they invented this new aesthetic. They invented a thing for a radio show to be about. I'll just close this by saying one more thing. There was a speech that Robert gave a couple of years ago where he talked about the freedom that he felt at NPR in the early days. He said the reason why he was able to do the work he did and why he trained himself to do work in a certain way was because they encouraged him to play. And I think when we think about an institution like WNYC and we think about public radio, like I feel like there's all these high-minded things that people expect of it, to reinforce the community and to give accurate, timely analysis and news and all the things that I feel like all of us turn to public radio for every day. But I feel like not enough gets said just about play. And I feel like, thank you. And without that, I just feel like this is my wish for WNYC for the next years, is that is there as well and grows. I feel like that's when things just become bigger than the sum of its parts. Anyway, thanks so much for including me tonight.
Thanks once again to Ira Glass. All right, our last performers of the evening, New York's own Nada Surf, 30 years ago, released their first single, Popular, became a huge hit. I think I interviewed them in a bar in the East Village in the 90s for MTV. I can't remember. On Friday, they're releasing their 10th studio album. It's called Moon Mirror. Please welcome Nada Surf. I have to ask you before you start playing, tell us a little bit about your new album.
Oh, yeah, let's see. Well, apparently we put out a record every election year. I didn't realize that until someone pointed it out yesterday. Yeah, Moon Mirror, we're very excited about it, and we're on a new label for us, New West, and it's a very exciting time.
All right, let's hear you go. Nada Surf, everybody.
We'll be right with you. Just a tiny little. I was doing this behind Ira Glass to make great embarrassment.
Same old ground I've always walked on. Now they call it fate. Don't be afraid, you won't be replaced. Don't be afraid,
Man, thank you. What a joy and honor to be playing with such great musicians and radio creators here in my childhood park. I want to say happy birthday to my mom tomorrow, who's been bringing me to this park since 1967. Super quick story. I was vacuuming the house wearing noise-canceling headphones, and my wife came up the stairs and said, "Could you fill the bath? I want to fill it with, put some bleach in it and give it a good clean." I said, "Sure." I turn on the bath and put my noise-canceling headphones back on and keep vacuuming. You know what's coming? So 10 minutes later, my wife runs up the stairs. "What is happening?" Got 7 smoke alarms going off in the house, thank goodness, in a way. So full panic, try and fix whatever I can, turn off the electricity, turn off the smoke alarms, which took a little while. Got a little extra tinnitus for about a week from that. Everything was fine, house dried out, electricity back on, but I felt so dumb. So dumb. And 2 days later, I was driving, and the only thing that cheered me up was to make a deal with myself and say, I'm not going to multitask anymore. Update, I still multitask. And what I hadn't realized till 2 days ago was that, what I'm about to tell you is that I wrote this song called In Front of Me Now while driving. I didn't realize it. Anyway, here we go. I used to be dreaming when I was driving. I used to be leaving when I was arriving. I used to be calling when I was walking. I used to be thinking when I was talking. I used to be counting when I was sharing. I used to be blanking when I was sharing. I used to be rolling when I was parking. I used to be raining when I was sparking. What's in front of me now? Today, I do what's in front of me now. I used to be stopping when I was trying. I used to be landing before I was flying. I used to be haunted, not just remembering in the middle of summer. I was Decembering, always rewriting what I was reading, but also doubting what I was conceiving. I used to be dropping when I was collecting. I could have been building, but I was dissecting. I do what's in front of me now. I do what's in front of me. What's in front of me? I do what's in front of me now. I used to be missing when I was kissing. Why wasn't I present? I could have been living. I used to be dodging when I was catching. I used to be dying. I could have been hatching. I used to be drowning when I was drinking. I was only masking. I could have been feeling. You used to surround me whenever you found me. I could have learned more from the friends I had around me. I used to be falling when I was leaning. Catastrophe recording. I could have been dreaming. I was Korean, looking for meaning. Wished I was relaxing. Could have been breathing. I do what's in front of me now. Today, I do what's in front of me. What's in front of me? Oh, there's too many ways. There's too much to see in the frame at once. It's too much to contain. Oh, there's too much to range. I can never explain it all. It's too much for my brain. I do what's in front of me. What's in front of me? I do what's in front of me now.
All right, now, Central Park audience, stay because we have a little extra music for you. On-air audience, we're going to do the credits right here. And Central Park audience, we're going to do the credits right here before the last music, because everybody who worked on this deserves their credit, right? So thanks first to all the musicians you heard tonight. Nada Surf, Laurie Anderson and Sexmob, mxmtoon and Freestyle Love Supreme. Storytellers, Ira Glass and Gabrielle Shea. I was your host along with my colleagues Alison Stewart, John Schaefer, Brooke, Gladstone, and Micah Loewinger. Adam Pod accompanied Brooke and Micah's presentation on the keys. Donwill has been our DJ, Donwill. Tonight's show is produced by Megan Ryan, Jennifer Keeney-Sendro, and Simon Close. Ricardo Fernandez was our technical director. Our broadcast engineer was Ed Haber. Our production team tonight included Julia Barton, Ipo Charlou, Eileen Delahunty, Zach Goddard-Cohen, Marika Hacking, Matthew Maffei, Noriko Okabe, Sean Iwi, Richard Owens, Bill Siegmund, Eric Weber, George Wellington, and Ryan Andrew Wild. It takes a village, right? Special thanks to WNYC's Director of Archives, Andy Lancet, to everyone at SummerStage and the City Parks Foundation for being our partners on this program, to all the hard-working staff of WNYC, past and present, who run this unique and amazing station, and to our members, you keep the station on the air, and we thank you. Now, if you missed part of the show or want to hear it again, it will be available on demand as audio and video very soon at wnyc.org/100. That's the same place to find out much more about WNYC Centennial, including a historical timeline, on-air specials, and upcoming other live events. And much of tonight's event will be rebroadcast on my show, The Brian Lehrer Show, tomorrow morning at 10 o'clock. Sean, why don't you close us out like we're on the radio?
My pleasure, Brian. You are listening to WNYC FM HD in AM New York, WNJT FM 88.1 Trenton, WNJP 88.5 Sussex, WNJY 89.3 Netcong, and WNJO 90.3 Toms River. We are New York and New Jersey Public Radio. I'm Sean Carlson. Thank you so much for listening. Happy 100th birthday, WNYC.
And do you want to hear an encore from Nada Surf?
Yeah. Give it up for Nada Surf.
3 important rules to breaking up. Don't put off breaking up if you know you want to. Prolonging the situation only makes it worse. Tell them honestly, simply, kindly, but firmly. Don't make a big production. Don't make up an elaborate story. This will help you avoid a big tear-jerking scene. If you want to date other people, say so. Be prepared for the board if feel hurt and rejected. Even if you've gone together for only a short time and haven't been too serious, there's still a feeling of rejection when someone says you prefer the company of others to your exclusive company. But if you're honest and direct, and avoid making a flowery emotional speech when you break the news, the board will respect your frankness, and honestly, he'll appreciate the kind, straightforward manner in which you told him your decision. Unless he's a real jerk or crybaby, you're made friends! 'Cause I'm head of the class. I'm popular. I'm a quarterback. I'm popular. My mom says I'm a catch. I'm popular. I'm never last picked. I got a cheerleader chick. Being attractive is the most important thing there is. If you want to catch the biggest fish in your pond, you have to be as attractive as possible. Make sure to keep your hair spotlessly clean. Wash it at least every 2 weeks. Once every 2 weeks. And if you see Johnny Football here in the hall, tell him he played a great game. Tell him he liked his article in the newspaper. 'Cause I'm the party star. Popular. And I got my own car. I'm popular. I'll never get caught. I'm the teacher's pet. Make football bad. support a 1 month limit on going steady. I think it would keep people more able to deal with weird situations and get to know more people. I think if you're ready to go out with Johnny, now's the time to tell him about your 1 month limit. He won't mind. He'll appreciate your fresh look on dating. And once you've dated someone else, you can date him again. I'm sure he'll like it. Everyone will appreciate it. You're so novel. What a good idea. You can keep your time to yourself. You don't need date insurance. Go out with whoever you want to. Every boy in the whole world can be yours. If you'll just listen to my plan, the Teenage Guide to Popularity. 'Cause I've never been class popular. I'm a quarterback. I'm popular. My mom says I'm a cat. I'm popular. I've never lasted. Got a cheerleading chick. I'm a party star. Popular. And I've got my own car. I'm popular. And I'll never get caught. I'm popular. I'm the teacher's pet. Make football best. Man, thank you for staying. Thank you for listening. They said we could do one more. So we're going to do that. It's called Inside of Love. Watching terrible TV, it kills all thought. Getting spacier than an astronaut. Making out with people I hardly know or like. I can't believe what I do. Late at night, I wanna know what it's like on the inside of love.
again and again. On the outside of love, always under or above, must be a different view to feel me with you. I wanna know what it's like on the inside of love. Standing at the gates, I see the beauty above. I wanna know what it's like on the inside of love. Of course, I'll be alright. I just had a bad night. I had a bad night.
Thank you so much. Thank you for listening. And thank you so much to WNYC and Central Park.